let's just, I definitely want to get into this because we talked about this on one of our last episodes and what we think of Ring of Honor and how it compares to AEW and its purpose and what it serves as far as the greater landscape of wrestling. And there's a quote from Tony Khan at the Death Before Dishonor press junket that I just kind of want to read really quickly. It's got a different mission. It's got a different audience than AEW. It's maybe more focused to a hardcore audience, and I can do things programmed to the hardcores and deliver the kind of wrestling that I know a hardcore fan is going to want to see. I think the AEW speaks to maybe a broader, definitely a bigger and broader worldwide audience. Ring of Honor has a great 21-year history and was at one point, in my opinion, the number 2 wrestling company in North America, if not the world. I didn't want the promotion to disappear because there's a lot of Ring of Honor fans, and the success of AEW probably changed the course of where ROH was going as a pro wrestling company. But I'm very glad to be the owner of Ring of Honor, and I enjoy booking Ring of Honor. I enjoy booking AEW. They're different things to a different audience in some ways, and I have different expectations. There's a different business expectation, but they're both great, and I think they exist very well, and I think they're very complementary. What do you think when you hear that quote?
That's there's a lot you said there. For him to say it's more of a hardcore thing, isn't that what AEW is? Wasn't that the point of AEW was to cater to more of a hardcore,
an alternative, yeah.
So this is the alternative to the alternative.
That's an interesting take on it. I don't know how much more alternative you can get to it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at AEW and you look at Ring of Honor, even just in their ring presentation and production value, yes, Ring of Honor feels much more closer to the deeper underground indie shows, or at least much more local ones, as far as how they set up their stage, taking the steps to get down instead of a ramp, things like that. But they do still have some of that lighting and WWE light production value.
Yeah. So in that quote, I mean, it almost sounds like he's starting to maybe gear towards being more sports entertainment with AEW. I mean, we did get the dance off.
I still don't understand.
And maybe I'm reading into it a little bit too much, but to me, it sounds like with as many eyeballs as they're going to have now and trying to redo that deal, are they going to do a little bit more of the sports entertainment stuff, not be as much hardcore wrestling fan oriented? And not to say that it's, they're not going to go full WWE. They're not. We're still going to get the crazy matches. But do we now see less of like a Vikingo? Does he go to more of a Ring of Honor than show up on a random AEW, show? I don't know. Do we get the random, Ishii sighting? Do we get the random, or does that go to more Ring of Honor? It's an interesting quote. I'm glad he likes booking Ring of Honor. I'm glad he still enjoys it, because it sounds like they had a hell of a pay-per-view. So he's still investing time into it. I still think it should replace Rampage. I don't know why you have Rampage. I think you just make it Ring of Honor. Also, in the quote saying it was he thinks that at one time it was the number 2 company in the world. That's a loaded statement. I don't know if I'd agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't say number 2, especially when we see what Impact was able to do before kind of their Global Force lull and split and calamity that kind of went on with that. It was one of the first real alternatives once Vince had the monopoly. That's for sure. But I think that number 2 would be a stretch. I think I would only consider them a number 2 during the peak of Bullet Club being there.
Yeah, but then
front center.
New Japan
about
had
the same time as the TNA. I mean that's true.
Because I think there was a time where Ring of Honor had the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Austin Aries, for Danielson, Steen, Generico, and all of them kind of went either to TNA or WWE, right? So I think if you go to TNA and you don't stay in Ring of Honor, that makes you kind of that third company. I think it was easily the number one independent company in the world, but they never got a major TV deal.
TV deal, yeah.
Yeah, they were always on Sinclair. Say what you want about TNA and TNA LOL. They were on Spike TV, which is a major cable company.
And attempted Monday nights
at the time, and they had attempted Monday nights. They had a big backer behind them, and when talent goes somewhere else and makes more money, that to me says they're going to a bigger show. And then TNA went a little bit downhill, way downhill, and like you said, the Bullet Club stuff started to come up, but that was still New Japan talent coming over. You still had a huge New Japan presence, and that was kind of where New Japan was starting to hit that peak of the Okada Omega trilogy and Nakamura and Cody Rhodes getting over there, and the Young Bucks, killing it over there. So I've always enjoyed Ring of Honor. I don't know if it has ever been the number 2. I agree that it's been up there as a company, easily top 5, I would say.
Yeah.
And hopefully this pay-per-view kind of sparks some life into it and rejuvenates Ring of Honor, because I think it could be a great, for lack of a better term, and I said it earlier, a great developmental option for AEW to build future stars. Like, I think an Action Andretti would be perfect on AEW or Ring of Honor right now.
And he did wrestle in 0 Hour, so I didn't
exactly.
Match, but that's a good use for him, especially because he did come in with a lot of fanfare, got the win over Jericho, but they did nothing to follow up on it.
Yeah, and you bring those people in and go have them prove it in front of a Ring of Honor crowd that's kind of akin to an NXT crowd, where it's more of the hardcore wrestling base, or what NXT used to be. But I could easily see Ring of Honor going that black and gold route and putting on just awesome pay-per-views like takeovers used to be. But I think you need to put a little bit more emphasis on Ring of Honor, start advertising their pay-per-views a little bit more, get the machine behind it a little bit more. And I think you could easily have a second brand to develop some of the future of AEW that's hopefully around for a long time.
Yeah, and I don't know why I've never really thought about this before, but especially in the context of looking at Ring of Honor and AEW, I mean, I think that instead of looking at Ring of Honor as developmental, call it an affiliate brand. Because yes, Tony owns both. It seems like they are trying to do 2 separate things under the same independent hardcore wrestling fan base umbrella of the audience that they want to attract. But a lot of the people that are working Ring of Honor are not necessarily developmental. Samoa Joe is not developmental. Claudio Castagnoli is not developmental. Pac is not developmental. Neither is Athena. I think we look at it from that context of these are 2 almost sister promotions that if you do continue to book shows like these, maybe sometime you can do an invasion angle or do something a little bit more fun that WWE could not necessarily pull off once upon a time,
Yeah, but you got to keep them separate for a little while. I mean, Claudio's on TV every week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's your Ring of Honor world champion. He's always showing up on Dynamite or Collision, or I don't know. Has he been on Collision? Whatever. He's always showing up on AEW TV. And when he came out for Blood and Guts, he didn't have the belt.
Yeah.
I think that was a major miss. Come out with the Ring of Honor title, advertise that you got a show coming up. I know I'm pretty sure the announcer said something about it, but he was the first one out.
Sure.
Come out with the title. What harm is it going to do if you come? I mean, Kenny comes out with, when he has it, he came out with the New Japan United States champion all the time. So I think if they get behind it a little bit more, they might get some viewers. And this is a good first start of everybody talking about it again. I mean, we've spent, I don't know how long on this, like a half hour talking about Ring of Honor, when we haven't even mentioned Ring of Honor for half the time we've known each other. You know what I mean? This is probably the most we've talked about Ring of Honor ever.
Yeah.
and that's not on the podcast or just in person or whatever it may be.
Sure.
So they have momentum behind it. Now they need to capitalize on it. And I don't know when the next pay-per-view is. I don't know what their next plan is, but let's make it a bigger deal this time, and let's push it hard and advertise it on your 17 shows that you have on TV every week. So exciting times to see maybe Ring of Honor come back.